You.
Well. Guess who's Bazak? You know what I'm saying? Back to the grill again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We back to the grill again. The grill again. You know.
Cats don't even know about that joint though.
They don't even know what back to the grill
put them
again.
on. You gotta put them on.
All right, so Back to the Grill Again is a song by Third Base. I think this came out in 1991. Third Base joint. There was a white rap group.
Yeah.
Only the second white rap group, I think, in history, I think, right? You got the Beastie Boys, and then you got Third Base.
Yeah.
Who else was there? I mean, you have Vanilla Ice. Was there a white rap group though? Was there any
I mean, yeah, that's it. Beastie Boys, Vanilla Ice, and Third Base. That's pretty much it. I don't know. I don't know who else. I mean, if we're missing somebody right now, it's gonna be a problem. But
man, who are they gonna do if we miss it though?
I can't think of nobody else.
All right, so Back to the Grill Again is a song by Third Base. It had Nas on there. This is
Murdered it.
Nobody knew. Nas killed that joint.
Yeah.
It was a couple different, and the tune was like "Back to the Grill Again, the Grill Again, Back to the Grill Again, the Grill Again." That's when hooks used to be real simple back then. That rap,
catchy, just catchy,
real catchy joint. So that we back to the grill again, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to be here. Listen, if you are listening to the audio, thank you for persevering there. We owe you guys an apology. We didn't get. I didn't get the file. But there was an issue with giving Strack the file to post it, and then I was gone. I was in Chicago and Michigan for a few days, so I didn't get it. I couldn't access the file and send it to him because I needed to be in my computer. So, but it will be up. Thank you for the people that have been asking. Some people are like, "Yo, y'all gonna post the joints? Y'all doing YouTube only now?"
Yeah, cats think that we just left. We left the podcast world. We still here.
It's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you without a strong rhyme to step to. And you know what? Look, I do. Oh, that's right. That's right. Look at this. Don't forget Snow. Remember Dan Miller?
I was thinking about Snow, but
I think they move on now.
Yeah, I was thinking about Snow. Was Snow at that same time though?
And
he was like mid-90s.
Well, don't forget House of Pain. Ooh,
House of Pain. How did we forget House of Pain?
Pack it in. Let me begin. I came to win. That'll be. That's a sin. I won't give it. That joint used to crank.
Was that all the white boys bringing them names up?
It probably is too. But Dan Miller's one of the white boys.
We got peoples. Peoples.
Don't forget. I'm waiting for someone to say, "What about Eminem? He was with," but that D12 wasn't an all-white rap group, man. That was crazy. Well, listen, man, we are glad to be here. We got some good stuff to talk about. Obviously. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on in the culture, in the world. But first things we got to talk about is, have you seen Eternals yet? Marvel's
I still haven't seen
new
it.
Joint. What have you heard about it?
Yeah, it's funny because it's the same thing as normal. Like some people think it's trash, some people think it's popping, and they going back and forth, and then they got their arguments on why they think it's not, why they think it's hot. Come on, whatever, man. I just gotta see the joint and see what it's hitting for.
I'm going to just say this, man. I'm going to say this. If it's Marvel, me and my kids go see it. Me and my boys going to see it.
Right.
So I would have taken them last weekend, but I was in Chicago. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And so Chicago and Michigan, so I ain't go see it. But tomorrow night, we going to see that joint. It's Marvel, baby. We go to see Marvel. So I heard some things about it. I'm like, But I think, you know what, man? When it comes to I think we just got to accept the culture that we live in, right? Like sometimes we hold on to how things used to be, how we want them to be, and we get mad that they're not like that. And it's like, you know what, man? This the culture we live in. It's culture we live in. It's gonna be crazy.
So I never even real rap. Cast Marvel heads might hate me for this, but I never even heard of no Eternals.
Yeah, so Eternals, bro, is I don't know what it is, but your face is frozen.
Yeah, I see that.
You got the grill again, the back to the grill again look on your face.
I'm about to come back though.
Right now.
Back.
You was back to the grill again.
I know. I had
that was Third Base. The gas face is what that was.
Word up.
I don't know about no gas face. Beat your chest if you know about gas face. You don't know about no gas face. Third Base. So yeah, the Eternals, man, you got to be into like all the comic book stuff. Those weren't the
For
main
sure.
things. That's when you into like the Beyonder and all this stuff. The Marvel superheroes, the Great World War or something, and
Yo,
all
you
that
just
stuff.
said some whole joint I don't know nothing about either. The Beyonder was
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's on some Will Mendoza stuff, man.
that's exactly who would know about that.
Yeah,
Apologists with
for
the
real.
action figures.
For real.
That's up. He apparently he didn't like it. He didn't like the joint, but I don't care what he thinks. I'm not worried about him.
Because you know,
Yeah, right. Listen, but we also got Spider-Man coming next month, fam.
oof, that joint looks tough.
that joint
Yes.
looks real tough. And if you see,
Yes.
if you saw Venom, the Venom 2 trailer, the
Right.
Carnage, at the end you saw the connection, the multiverse,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Which I know about that sound effect, man. Y'all don't know about that joint right there.
Nothing.
I ain't like it either, but that's because my voice went too high. I don't got that can't get real high pitch anymore, man. Can't do it. All right, and then we got after that, we got Boba Fett, Star Wars joint, TV show coming out. Hey, that joint looks tough.
Yeah. That's a spin-off from The Mandalorian,
Mandalorian,
right?
Yeah. I like The Mandalorian, though. Mandalorian was good.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. I don't know if it would have been tough if Baby Yoda wasn't there. But that joint was tough.
He definitely added to it.
A lot of people like Baby Yoda. You used to make his faces all the time, Strike. I know you bang with the dude. He had a real big influence on you.
That's why I'm rocking green today. That's why.
There it is.
You thought it was about to fit it, but it's really not.
Yeah. Oh, somebody just said a new trailer dropping tomorrow for Spider-Man. Don't play with me.
Hey.
I need to see that. I heard there's some cutscenes at the end of Marvel, the Eternals, that I'm looking forward to seeing. I got to see that. All right, listen, man. A couple of things we want to talk about. We want to get into some things, you know how it be. We want to get into a couple of things with y'all. But first, you know, it's been a while since we've told y'all that you can't spell Kurt without CRT. Right?
He's back. He's back, ladies and gentlemen.
You can't do it. You can't spell Kurt without CRT. All right, so I had the privilege of being invited to Michigan to speak at a church where they were really good people too, man. Love these folks, man. Really good people. But they are going through some of the challenges, like dealing with like critical race theory and, you know, it was mainly like stuff like that and politics and just all of the stuff. Like I think in that area, in Michigan, in that particular area, it's interesting, man, because I'm right outside DC. So like politics and stuff just has a different impact over here than it does over there. So they asked me to come in and talk to just this particular church about CRT. What is it? How should Christians think about it and all that? So it kind of put me back into this world. So I was there. I had a good time. I was there. I did some photography. I was in downtown Chicago. I was like, man, look, you ain't going to the Shy and not. So I drove around for a while looking for Lil Durk on the south side. And I couldn't find him, but I found some people that look like him. And so you just gotta be careful.
If I go to the Shy, I'm looking for Common.
Yeah, shit.
I mean,
what's common out there if you go to South Side Chicago is gangsters. That's what's common. You're gonna see a lot of commonality out there. But that was cool. I like Chicago. It's a cool city, man. I'm not, DC doesn't have, they don't have any buildings taller than the monument. So it's cool for me to go to other cities and see their skylines because DC, the tallest building is the Washington Monument. So I was there, took some shots. I even did the Kanye video, like, what's up with, is Kanye a believer? There was a mansion, just an interesting mansion right in the middle of like, sort of in Chicago. So I went there to take pictures of this. And then I just said, you know what? I'm going to just do this video right here because I was parking in a place where it was good. So I did that.
You had the ill cameo there too.
Yeah, like the dude, and that dude was hanging around. Well, you know what he said to me after, right? He waited the whole time for me to do that video. And then afterwards, he was like, hey, Kurt, man, I seen you on YouTube, man. Just wanted to walk up and say hello. He made it seem like I'm following you on YouTube. And I was like, fam, we only got about 2 episodes out, man. Go ahead, man. You ain't follow me on YouTube. So he asked for a couple of dollars, and I obliged. He said, man, can you help out the poor, the homeless? I said, yeah, man. I blessed the dude because I just said, he made the video funny.
Right, he sure did.
And I was like, man,
he added an element to that joint for sure.
What you doing, fam? What you doing, fam? Why you here, fam? So,
right.
So I got to do that, and it was good, man. I got to do a lot of thinking. There's been a lot. Sometimes when you're in your normal environment and you have time to think when you're driving in your car or you're just in your office or whatever you do. But I think when you travel and you're really by yourself and you're in an unfamiliar place, that it just affords you the ability to think about things. And so I started thinking about just where I'm at in my life. What are some areas that I'm trying to grow in and focus on? Stuff between me and my wife. What do we need to focus on? And then I was thinking about what I was going to talk about and about race and politics and CRT. And, it's been the world that I was in the last couple years and talking about that. And people were aware of the Vodi Bakum back and forth, that wrath and grace, Christ greater than culture. So I was thinking about all of that stuff. And so I went to the church, great time, spoke there. I went to a small group that evening and answered some more questions for people there and was able to encourage people. But there was some stuff that, and again, I haven't thought about this in a while, but there might, we said so much about CRT and all this stuff in previous seasons. I may have said this, but what was interesting to me to talk to believers in the Midwest in Michigan, and they were very good questions, man, very humble, godly people. I look forward to going back there again if I'm invited. But one of the things that I noticed was there was, for some people, this sense of we got to defend, take back, like, what does it look like to take back our country for God and resist CRT and all these things. And it's the bias of the CRT. And it got me thinking. I was like, this is what I was thinking out there. And I actually put this on Facebook today. And when I put stuff out there on Facebook, people just get offended. And
all the time.
Like, all the time. I'm not even trying to offend people.
I've become a recipient of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not even the one doing it. Cats is like, yo, you're the one.
What you mean? Like they're coming at you like, what's up with your man?
Yeah, clickbait. I'm Sergeant Clickbait. I don't even be posting the stuff. Like,
right.
And still it is what it is.
But I mean, to me, when people like get offended, like if you get offended at a perspective of someone, and most of these people don't really know me, like know me through social media.
Not at all.
You don't know me at all. You don't know who I am. You just know what I present to you either in a tweet. So you read into these things. If you're really offended at what I tweet, like, you can like not follow me. Like you don't have to respond. Like I don't understand why, if something bothers me that much, it's like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to be around. I would just stop following the dude. Like why do you? So this really isn't about me. It's really about the immaturity, I think, of people. But I said something that I think I really just find it interesting. And I said, essentially, that while I don't agree with CRT at all, like I don't bang with it. I don't have any use for it. I've never once promoted it. I've never talked about it, even in a positive light necessarily. Like I don't care about it. But the one thing that I thought was interesting is, as I was listening to the people in Michigan and listening to people online, and all the pushback against it about the revisionist history and stuff, it just made me wonder. I was like, you know what? I wonder if people, like, how do people think that the history that we've already had, the history that I grew up in, the textbooks that you read, Strack, the textbooks that we read in the 80s and 90s and people who decades before, like, I don't hear anyone pushing back against that history. And that history was just as racially biased. Like it's like people are acting, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a proponent of CRT. And I'm not the last time I'm going to say that because I don't need to qualify it. But people are acting as if there's been the history has been racially neutral and unbiased, and CRT is revisionist history. And a lot of Christians think that way. And I just think, McGraw-Hill, Houghton, Mifflin, Harcourt, Pearson Education, and a lot of the main companies, these are billion-dollar companies. A lot of the main companies that publish textbooks and have been since the late 1800s have always had a racial bias in their presentation of American history. I remember, as a matter of fact, on the post, I want to read you one thing that a girl said on this post. This lady said this, and I thought this was really interesting because I remember stuff like this. This is what she said. She said, one of my first classes when I moved to the U.S. in 1995 was American history a required class. I remember reading in our textbook about the American Indian. The book called them noble savage, and they were lazy and prone not to work. In the textbook, this is what she puts. That entire class was very interesting, and I was lucky enough to have had an instructor who challenged those kinds of portions in the text, yet he used it for some other topics. He was the school's head of Chicano studies. I remember wondering how come even the textbooks were so blatantly racist or else one-sided. And I don't think people realize. So I'm not saying yes, CRT is the answer. What I was thinking is like, can we not pretend though, like history has been like neutral, and that CRT is trying to write a revisionist history? No, fam. I didn't know about a lot of the history until I graduated, or I got locked up, and you meet dudes who know about this stuff. Or I had a dad who was a Black Panther who would tell me stuff when I was a kid. But like, I didn't get that in the history books. I remember hearing about Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King, maybe George Washington Carver, but a lot of it was, I heard more about Columbus. I heard about I heard about the American Revolutionary War. I heard about the Declaration of Independence and the signing of all that, and the Liberty Bell, and all the great things about America. But I didn't hear any of the stuff about slavery. It was very downplayed. It was very minute. It portrayed real serious sinful events as just like almost things that were necessary and good for the history. And so when I'm watching all these people fight over CRT, don't get me wrong, fight against it, but don't act like we haven't had a racially biased, unneutral, inaccurate view of history in our textbooks all this time. Like if let's just be honest. I'm not saying go CRT, but let's not blame the racially challenging revisionist history. America has always had a revisionist history. As a matter of fact, when I grew up, bro, there was a show called The Dukes of Hazzard. I know we talked about this before, right?
Yeah, for
That
sure.
was one of my favorite shows as a kid, bro. As a matter of fact, my mom, either I don't know if it was for my birthday or for Christmas, bought me the little car. It was an orange car, right? It was a Dodge. What was that? It was a Dodge something. It John was
Dodge Charger.
Dodge Charger, orange Dodge Charger with the Confederate flag on the side.
Right.
And the car was called the General Lee, fam.
Yeah.
And it was one of my favorite toys. And had that general won the war, I might still be a slave. I might have been born into slavery, right? So let's like we celebrated and made shows, and people got popularity. And in the South, they got 5 federal holidays devoted to these guys who most people say technically are traitors of America. So can we stop like with the fake stuff? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not for CRT, I get it, but let's stop pretending like you know what the fight really is? It's over biased history that I've accepted and biased history that I reject. And let's just
Yeah.
call it that. I mean, let's just be honest. When when in the Brown versus Board of Education, right, 1954, that landmark study that integrated the schools, up until that point, who was teaching the students? What were the textbooks have always come from companies and organizations, and they define the content that goes in these textbooks. They decide what they're going to talk about. And there was not a lot of pushback, I think, from Black people, because Black people were just trying to get a good education. They were trying to just get textbooks that work, schools that aren't broken down, water fountains that work, right? So there wasn't a lot of pushback. People just accepted that bias historical narrative. And people went to it. Wasn't until rap in the late 80s with like Public Enemy and X Clan. You remember that? And like groups like Poor Righteous Teacher. There was a lot of that blackness, that HBCU. Like if you're old enough to remember rap back then with Public Enemy and Fight the Power, all you had people like Spike Lee, directors like that who would give you
Yeah.
a different angle, a Black angle, more on the way. That's the stuff that happens. So what CRT is it's a revisionist history of a revisionist history. So let's not pretend like we're defending and fighting for our country when we're really fighting to maintain a historical racial bias in textbooks and schools that we've just accepted as truth and not an accurate one. Like I'd love to see someone say, hey, let's put together an accurate view of history where it doesn't make white people solely the oppressors and all this stuff, every white person, but it doesn't pretend like black people just loved slavery and the Civil War in America was just people who over states' rights. And let's just be honest about it. It was, and that's the thing that bothers me about all this. It's like, you're not really fighting over CRT. You're fighting over maintaining a racial bias that most of us have accepted in America as okay, because we never really push back in it. So that's the stuff that's just wild to me. So every time these conversations, the CRT stuff comes up, I'm just like, it just shows me the deception of people and how we're just so easily deceived, bro.
So was this a conversation you was having like in a church setting or a conference setting? Like, what was it?
So I was invited to the church. Now, this wasn't the whole conversation. What I'm talking about is not necessarily the conversation I was having with people there. They had really good questions. It was me thinking about the reality of this conversation. It's still happening.
Still having to have the conversation.
Yeah. And the outrage over CRT is if like, and it's like, listen, I get it. There are people who are using it in very sinful ways. And I think that's trash. You know, all white people are on oppressors and all black people are on oppressed. And so all that stuff, I get it. However, I just think, can we stop pretending like we're protecting the integrity of the American narrative, historical narrative, when that narrative by all these major corporations have largely been truncated and one-sided in their explanation of history. If CRT is one-sided, it learned from the best. You know what I'm saying? If Ibram Kendi and Delgado and D'Angelo, they learn from the best. They learn from the best. They're pushing back against another biased history that doesn't tell the full story, which you don't learn about unless you go to college. So ironically, CRT is a college legal study that you don't teach. It's funny that that's what's become now the norm, when you had to go to college to hear a real accounting of American history, or at least a more balanced view, at least, of American history. And that's the stuff where I just think like, I'm not over the I'm fine with it. I get it. And I'll say this lastly. One thing I'm realizing is, and this is what I realized, I was trying to help this church see this. What people are fighting over, believers, is not biblical morality, it's American morality. Right? It's American morality. So American morality is essentially life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? That's American morality. That's what the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, that's what these things were for. So if that's the case, then you have to accept everything that America presents. Like, so you can't be offended at these things and that's what I think a lot of believers are fusing, what we call it theological historically, right? They're fusing American morality. Like, you can't say, this is about America. Listen, America is not a Christian nation. It's not bent to like glorify God. If America really is about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then you have to accept LGBT. You have to accept Black, all the stuff that you hate. You have to accept, because that's what it means to be an American. Mm-hmm. As an American, everyone gets to have their cup of tea. Everyone gets a piece of the American pie.
The pursuit of happiness.
That's it. That's American morality. And I think what's happening is there's a fusion of American morality and then biblical Christianity, and Christians think they're compatible. And I think what the Lord is doing with all this stuff is just showing some people that these are not compatible.
Not compatible. I mean, America is nothing but the world's attempt at heaven. I mean, America is the utopia that, the greatest utopia we were able to create on this side of eternity. Mm-hmm. There's no other civilization throughout history that has been as successful as America in many ways. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it is somewhat heaven on earth for some people.
It is, yeah.
Like, that's just the reality.
And the thing that bothers me is, like, Christians compare America to other countries and be like, what are you complaining about? But see, I compare America to the scriptures.
Right.
I don't compare America to the Middle East or to India or to Africa or to I compare America to the scriptures. And
Right.
that's the difference. I don't compare America to
Yeah, I
what
mean, if we had no home to compare America to, then we would think America was top dollar. I mean, it was top notch. But we have a home that is set apart for us that we can compare America to. You know, an
100.
inheritance set
Yeah.
apart for us, undefiled,
100.
imperishable. You know what I'm saying? Like
No, that's real.
unfading. Yeah, real rap. I
That's
mean,
real. And I think
yeah, it's
that's
First
where
Peter.
so the reason why I appreciate my history teacher because he explained and balanced out the error in humanity during the growing pains of this nation. Honestly, bro, that's all I really would care for. I just like don't. I think that's great. Don't whitewash, pun intended,
Right.
American history, right? And don't try to blackwash it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like there's just real stuff, and I don't know what it is that America thinks like. If you tell the people this and they're going to feel this way, it's like nah. But that's the. This isn't about race, man. This is about
But there's certain things that that don't help the American picture. They don't help create the American citizen that is
Mhm.
attempted at creating in public education. I
Yeah,
mean, there is a goal to create a certain type of citizen.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So when you have certain kind of history books, they paint America a certain way. They create a certain type of citizen
yeah.
that is willing to pledge allegiance to a flag.
Right, 100.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
well said, bro.
that's real rap. That's
Mhm,
and that's what we have to deal with.
mhm.
It's a programming. You know
But
what I
that's
mean?
what it is. It is. It's a
Yeah.
good program, and that's what I think a lot of Christians are really having to run into. Is like you created in your mind, America is like God's place, and in the Bible, God's place is not in America.
Right.
So again, you're running into this challenge of the American dream. Life includes everyone. That's all religions, all sexual preferences, all of it. And if you're going to
Right.
say I'm for America, then you better know what you're saying. You're not just saying I'm for America, the Christian America. Nah, America ain't never been Christian. It may have more people who profess to be Christian. We not
There's
talking.
people that will argue that to the core that
Man,
America was Christian.
I don't
But
get it. In what
I've seen the
biblical
arguments. I understand there were Christians that were heavily involved in the foundation of this nation. I get it. Even in writing monumental documents and all of that. But to say that America overall was a Christian nation with the way,
just Google the Treaty of Versailles. Just Google the
yeah,
Treaty of Versailles.
yeah, we had a whole
Yeah, we
episode
did
on
that.
this joint last season.
Yeah, you go check
We
it out.
went
Go
in.
look for it. I don't remember, but it's just not that. So that's again, you can't spell Kurt without CRT. I haven't we haven't talked about this in a while. I just thought, man, this is just I was grateful to have the conversation and the people in the church were amazing. But I'm just so it just puzzles me that people just don't and this is going to get in and spill over to what we're going to talk about next about Travis Scott and what happened at Astrofest. It puzzles me just that people seem to not have the ability to think critically and or to really think, I think almost I don't want to say biblically, like every thought I have is biblical, but I'm motivated not by like the horizontal view of things, but by like, okay, Lord, what are you exposing? Why are you allowing this to happen? Like, why is this happening? What are you after here? What is it about your church that you're exposing that you want us to go after as you're
Right.
doing this? And for me, that's why I stay balanced. That's why I've always been able, even though people get angry and I don't get some of the opportunities that I would get because I won't pick a side. The
Because
only
it's not biblical, man.
it's
What's
not
wrong with
biblical.
you?
Because right. But I'm
It's not
talking
biblical to be balanced.
but most of the people that push back say that they are biblical.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, I want to put this. I think this is a good post right here. I want to show this. Listen, woke only exists because false U.S. historical narrative. If you don't teach history holistically, you create room for next generation's consciousness and wokeness. I agree with that, bro. I agree with that statement. I think a lot of what we're seeing is the failure of an accurate accounting and a humility. And I think that's the problem. I think so. You're creating the very monster that you're trying to starve.
Yeah, I mean, if they would have been honest, I think if they would just be honest with history and lay it out there the way school is supposed to be. School
Right.
is supposed to be a place where ideas are brought together and we discuss them and learn and weigh them against history,
Mm-hmm.
and see how they benefit our future. It just doesn't happen anymore. I wish I would have learned in school how Puerto Rico was occupied by the United States,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
and all those things that happened there and the ugliness that created Puerto Rican terrorists that were,
Mm.
shooting up Congress. Like
Right.
what happened? You know what I'm saying? Why? Why didn't I learn that in school? It
Mm-hmm.
happened before the textbooks were created. Like this
Yeah.
happened in the
Right.
50s and 60s.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
No, you know what? You made a point that made me think about something. And I'm going to end this with this for me. You just said something that made me think like, what's funny is Christianity is about transparency, right?
Right.
It says, if we believe we have no sin, then we are a liar.
It's one of our greatest weapons.
Transparency is one of our greatest weapons, like the humility to confess your sin and to be transparent.
Amen.
And I think the fact that we would call America a Christian nation when it tries not to be transparent, right, is really saying something about what we think about Christianity.
That's
Because
good.
if the Bible calls us to confess our sins, to
Right.
humble ourselves, to be transparent and to walk in the light, what we're trying to do is protect the reality because we're afraid of how people will perceive us or perceive the country or how if we don't. And it's the opposite what the Bible calls us to do. So the irony of people thinking they're protecting and defending when you're essentially just not wanting transparency to exist, and that is fundamental for being a Christian.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just such a bizarro world we live in.
Right.
You know about Bizarro? What you know about Bizarro?
Yeah.
But it's a
You're talking about-
bizarro world, bro. It really is. Bizarro's that backwards Superman, that dude.
Yeah.
That dude, man, is wild, man. You need to go
I
watch
thought you was gonna throw a wrestler in there and be like, yeah, Bizarro was that wrestler.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I was waiting.
It's that backwards Superman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna get to the meat. That was the appetizer. We're gonna get to the meat of this, man. What a travesty.
Indeed.
What a travesty.
Indeed.
I was going to speak to this much sooner, but I thought, nah, I really want to do this with Strizzo and talk about it. So we've been looking at a lot of stuff, reading a lot, and I just wanted to give some perspective. We always try to, listen to what people are saying and try to discern what we think the real issue is. That's what we do on our show. We cross-examine. And so we're going to do that now. And everyone obviously doesn't have to agree with what we say in our perspective, and we understand that. But we are going to give a perspective. I think I'm going to bring a perspective that I've looked at a lot of stuff, it may challenge some other people's perspective on what I think the real problem is and the real issue is. But obviously, for those who don't know, I'm sure everyone knows, but Travis Scott a few days ago had what is his third annual Astrofest. He has a history at this festival. It's a festival in Houston where Travis Scott is from. He brings in some of the most popular rap artists for 3 days or something like that. I mean, a lot of artists do this. Drake does it with the OVO Fest in October in Canada. Some artists do this, they're like, it's like a big festival like Coachella or whatever, Rock the Bells, but it's specifically for Travis Scott. I think 2 years ago, they didn't have it last year because of COVID. So 2 years ago, he was fined or even arrested for inciting the crowd to like disregard what the security is saying and rush and do all this stuff. And
I think he got 2 misdemeanors on that.
yeah, he
on
did.
The same thing.
People got hurt, but no one was killed in this one.
Right.
So he recently had this fest, and we're going to get into some of the specifics of what people said happened, and then just kind of give a perspective on what we think and how we're processing this. I do want to say before we do that now there are 9 people dead. So up to this point, there had been 8 people that were killed at this festival, and now there's 9 people. which I still think that's kind of I'm surprised it's a little bit of a low number in light of all the stuff that like happened at this festival and what it was about.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
still, I mean, obviously, if it was someone you cared about, one would be enough. So I'm not in any way
right.
by saying that I'm not being insensitive to people who are struggling with the outcome of this, but just trying to understand it. So there's a lot that happens. So there's nine people who have died. There are over right now 50 lawsuits that I'm aware of. 50 lawsuits. So one of the things I want to ask you, Strack, I want to start with just this. Like, what have you seen? And what are some of the things that you've thought about as you've seen all of this play out? You've looked at a lot of the videos. You've read some of the crazy articles that I've read about just the way that things looked, the staging, and what appeared to be the goal, like just of this. And we don't know, obviously. It's not like I can call Travis and be like, hey, man, what were you thinking? But based on the promotion of the event, even the song he put out 5 days before the event, Escape Plan, and just the way stuff looked, like what are your thoughts and how have you been processing this whole thing as you've seen it play out?
One of the things I mentioned is I don't know why, but I tend to be real sensitive like when things are really dark. Like I feel it. You know what I'm saying? I feel it inside. Like I can, and I just all day I've been, because we've been really kind of diving into this and what happened, I feel like that sense of like gloominess, you know what I'm saying? Like that, like this is just like you can feel the sin and the darkness and the, you know, just in what happened. You know what I'm saying? And aside from any conspiracies or stuff that people will say, just the fact that people died in such a tragic way. And like one of the things I listened to, it was an article and they were talking about how the tunnel that was set up behind him was kind of like to be symbolic of a tunnel to hell. You know, it was like see you on the other side. You know, was the wording that was there before it opened up, before he came on stage. And the idea or the thought that someone was laying on their back in that crowd, knowing they were about to die, and their last visuals was of that concert, that mess, that, you know, craziness, which was set up in a way to represent a tunnel to hell, like to the other side of the, you know, the other world, astral world, or whatever you want to call it, with flames and everything. It's just, it's so heavy to me to think that someone might have went from that into eternity, into real hell. You know, is a reality that is very likely, you know, that at least some of those 9 died without the Lord, you know, if not all of them. So that in itself kind of makes it like super heavy, you know what I'm saying, as we even talk about this. But even thinking about how influential people can be over others, and just the whole concept of a concert and the way the artist comes out and he's praised almost, and his lyrics are sung in such a, you know, it just feels different nowadays, bro. I don't know what it is. There's like back in the day growing up watching concerts on TV and stuff, I would have never compared like a hip hop concert to like, you know, what's the dude that used to bite birds' heads off?
Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy Osbourne. You know what I'm saying? Like these rock and roll dudes, like Kiss and them, like they
was crazy, bro.
They prided themselves on doing things that could have been easily labeled demonic. You know what I'm saying? Like they were proud of that. And when I grew up listening to hip hop, like there was no pride in that. You know what I'm saying? There was no like pride in the demonic. I mean, some people said stupid things like Biggie, like we talked about, you know, but there was still some reverence. There, you know, I think today hip hop has become what rock and roll was in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And it's taken on that, if we if we give off the impression that we're Illuminati, that we're devil worshippers, that that we have that Gnostic understanding of the life and existence,
Yeah.
Then people will find more intrigue in us and want to follow us more, so they take pride in that. And this concert, just like the one dude in the article said, man, if you set things up to be dark and gloomy and demonic, then expect dark and gloomy and demonic things to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just super sad, man. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's part of what I've been thinking about, where my mind goes as I'm considering all of this.
You know, it's funny that you say that about like rap never being associated with like demonic stuff. What was interesting is back in the 80s, Dougie Fresh, he had his first single was a song called The Show. And there was this rumor that Dougie Fresh was a devil worshiper because in the song, he would be like this, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 6 minutes, Dougie Fresh, you're on. So people were like the 6 minutes, 6 right, of the 6 minutes.
Right.
And there was such a controversy around him being a devil worshiper. I remember him being on 60 Minutes and saying he wasn't. There was such a controversy that he had to come out with a new album, and the first single was "All the Way to Heaven, 7 Heaven, All the Way to Heaven." That's true. I kid you not. You can't make this stuff up. I am a hip hop historian. Believe what I say. So listen, you can't make this stuff up. This dude had a song. Google it. Dougie Fresh, "All the Way to Heaven."
That's wild.
That was, I think, the first single of the next album. He was going to go after that because black people typically don't do that. But I would agree, brother. I think there is a darker issue, a darker thing happening, and with all the stuff about the occult and different things within the music industry,
right?
Just all of the ways that it was promoted and all of the flyers, the way the stage looked like an inverted cross. You had a lot of different imagery.
Yeah. You know what else? You can't deny like the impact that this family has had. Speaking of the Kardashians, like you can't deny the impact they've had on people's lives.
Yeah.
On media, on society as a whole. I mean, Kanye said in the Drink Champs, like, Kim Kardashian changed what a beautiful woman is supposed to look like, pretty much.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, she affected the way we view women. You know what I'm saying? Like, and particularly white women. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it really blows my mind. This stuff is crazy influential, bro. These people have mad impact, and this family has kind of led the way by spearheading. This. I mean, think about. My thoughts are all over the place right now.
No, go for it.
If you think about Bruce Jenner, right? If you think about Bruce Jenner, this man was at one time considered the greatest athlete in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Playing tennis, right? Yeah.
No. For playing everything. You know what I'm saying? Like he's triathlete. You know what I mean? Like this dude killed the game.
Yeah, he did.
And then he transitions into becoming a woman, and is still very well affiliated with that family. And every man that marries into this family winds up having some type of psychotic issues. Like, come on, fam, what's going on here? It's not coincidental that this family is tied into all of this craziness. I don't know what's going on.
So one of the theories is that the Astrofest was on November 6th, and it was to celebrate Kris Jenner's birthday, who turned 66.
Right, the mom.
Yeah, the mom. So it'd be November 6th on her 66th birthday, makes it 3 6s, right? So there's a lot.
It was also like the solstice or whatever, where the spirit world is supposed to be the most open to the, all of that stuff.
After Halloween, from like November 1st to like November 6th.
Right.
They're supposed to be like animal and human sacrifices for Satan, and
it's
called
which is blowing up right now. Like this witchcraft thing is blowing up right now.
Mm-hmm. It's blowing up. Now the enemy's on the move. He's working. He's working heavy. Yeah,
Right.
it's called Sam Hain or Sam Hain or whatever. It depends on how you pronounce it. SAMHAIN is
Mm.
sort of the satanic cult awareness website. Has all these things that happen on November 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th as a result of allegiance to Satan. So
It's wild.
there's a lot of stuff that people are saying is connected to that. So, um, what did you feel like has been for you? Has there been anything encouraging for you in this? Anything that you feel like you can salvage?
I mean, off the top, I can't really think of nothing right away because I think I'm still sitting in the darkness
Yeah.
of it all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you this then: who do you think is to blame for this? Like, there's a lot of lawsuits right now. Some people are even suing Drake as well. I'm not sure. I didn't follow the train of thought about why Drake is being sued in this. I'm not sure.
I think it was because he was on stage after the crowd started already saying like we need help.
Oh yeah, he was inciting the crowd to like do stuff, right? That's right.
So there was a continuation like of the concert in spite of everything that was happening.
Yeah, you know the cameraman's getting death threats, bro.
I can imagine.
The
Yeah.
video, but I feel bad for him because he's just doing his job.
Right.
He doesn't have any authority to stop the show. He's
Right.
just a cameraman, and he doesn't know. He probably thinks it's just a fan trying to get on and get. He doesn't know what's going on. So I feel bad. He's getting death threats, bro. That's crazy. That's cancel culture for you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you ain't lying. Yeah. I think honestly though, everybody who was involved in putting it together
Mm-hmm.
is culpable in one way or another. They're responsible in one way or another because even if you just hear testimonies of how the security was put together by people who were put in as security that were just regular civilians and had no experience.
Yeah.
They were just tossed in like, yeah, here, sign up. All right, cool. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff is crazy. I mean, there was, especially when you think about like I think we heard the same testimony with the dude that ran up on stage and talked to the cameraman.
Yeah.
And he talked about his preparation for this type of event. He talked about having a backpack with certain things within the backpack, a map, an exit plan, a meeting place in case they get lost. Like all these things were expected to take place at this kind of event by those who were participating in the event. Right. Why were the people who were putting the event together, why weren't they expecting these things to happen and preparing for these things to happen? Unless, there was some type of wicked intentions. That's just, you can't rule that out in today's world. When you got people walking around, injection spiking, I mean, fam, like
that's pretty crazy, bro.
That's wild. That's wild. That's on some movie stuff. People walking around injecting people with fentanyl and making them pass out. Like,
yeah, have cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, bro. Now, as I've thought about it, I'm probably going to offend someone right now. And my intention is not to do that or to cause any challenge to the family, people who've actually lost a loved one and someone they care about. But I actually think that people who are most responsible are the people who were in the crowd at the event. All of them. And let me explain what I mean. At these concerts, rappers control the crowd, like MC, right? You move the crowd, right? You control the crowd. You tell them what to do and they respond. But the thing that I keep going back to, so like let's just say all of it was demonic, right? Let's just say the Kardashians, Travis Scott, let's say they're all in the occult, right? Let's just say all of that is 100% genuine. I mean, you cannot look at the imagery of that event and think that this was just for show. Like he was communicating another message. You had people talking about there was a deep bass frequency that was playing a lot
for hours
that people were getting sick from, and it was and it would be playing. So there was obviously, have you seen those clips of like, it looks like a demon walking on top of the stage? Did you see that one?
No, I
Someone
didn't
was like,
see
"Man,
that.
what is that?" And then there was another one where
That's
it
wild.
looked like a demon jumped into the crowd. You didn't see them joints?
No.
Oh, fam, I gotta show you the
I'm
links.
looking them joints up right now while we on the show.
Bro, them joints look crazy. And they might be true or not, but they just look a little wild, right?
That is crazy.
So the thing that I feel like the people who are at fault is really the people who were there, particularly. And what I mean by that is this. Why, and this is a question that I'm going to explain this is why because someone is I like their music or they're a good athlete or actor, like why do we give people like that an authority over us?
Right.
Like, why do you get that? Why do you have an authority over me? And I'm talking about a moral authority, right?
For real.
Like why is it that if someone is rich or popular, famous, if they're really good at something and I like it, like why do they have a moral authority over me?
Hmm.
Like, and that's the most concerning part to me is like okay, you like Travis Scott's music and you show up and you want to see him. But why when he says like, or Drake, why when they say, man, rush the stage, why do you do that against moral sensibilities?
Right.
I've seen shows where rappers tell girls to come on stage and strip and then dance in front of everybody, and these girls will just do it. And it's like, would you do that if your father was standing right there watching you?
That's
Like
right.
what? Like why do we give people who are good at things that we appreciate, like an actor, or why do they get a moral authority over us? And I think that's the deeper problem. It's like, okay, I can go to Travis Scott's concert, like it, but if I go like for me, it would be like we might go see Jay-Z or something, right? But if Jay-Z tells me to say, put your middle finger up, I ain't doing that.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If he tells me to say cuss back, like if he says he repeats something and said everybody yells, I ain't doing that. You know, if he tells like what? Why do these people have a moral authority over you because you like their athleticism? I think Steph Curry. I was having this conversation with my buddy today. I think Steph Curry. I said this before. I think he's changed the game much more than LeBron. I think LeBron may go down in history as a better NBA player, but LeBron did not change the game the way Steph Curry did. No one's changed the game. We look at game. This is why to me Mike is still that dude. Mike made being a height. And we talked about this like he made 6'6", like people want to be his height just to kind of have his ability.
For
Steph
sure.
Curry has changed the game. And I love watching him play. But if I met Steph Curry and he told me to do something that was morally against what I believe to be true, I'd be like, nah. And that might be a wrap for me. Like, you know what I'm saying? But what happens is when you get into these moments, people, I'm not talking about, oh, it's just young people. No, they were 27, 28, 30, 40-year-old people at this joint.
Right.
The people who died range from 14 to 27. But like, you know, when you're 27, I'm sorry, you're grown.
Yeah, you grown.
You're grown. Like, why does a someone that you like have a moral authority? And that's the real question for me. And this is what I'm hoping people start to key in on. So even if Travis Scott is demonic, let's just say everything was a satanic occult ritual. Let's say all of it is true. Why does that make me, because he's popular or like his music, have to participate in what he's saying do at the concert? I'm not talking about participate because I'm there. You can stand and watch something and be like, I ain't doing none of that stuff, you know? You've been at concerts before, track where they might have been throw your hands up and you like this, you know, you rocking out. That shit.
Yeah,
But if they tell you to do some other things, you're like, man, I ain't doing that, man.
for sure.
I'm here to see you. I ain't jumping around like you are.
You know what though is it's interesting because when kids talk about, like when I hear testimonials and people talk about this dude Travis Scott, and other artists, they talk about him as they say the word vibe. It's a vibe.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's something different about the music, the message, the feeling that it gives me when I listen. You know what I'm saying? Like I can kind of relate it similar to back in the day, dudes used to talk about Bone Thugs and Harmony this way. They had like a vibe about them that just set them at a certain place, you know. And when you think about this vibe concept, this idea, it automatically puts the person at the level of the one creating the vibe. Like they now have something in common and in tune that they can consider themselves one in. You know, so we're it's the stand mentality. You know what I'm saying? With Eminem, the fan stand. Like there's such a oneness with this person creating this music that I'll do and say whatever. You know what I'm saying? Because I want to show that I am as devoted to this as he is.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So when he's up there and he's like, smash the crowd or mosh, or you know, there's no mosh pit unless there's an injury. People are all about it because they want to show that they're devoted. You know, they're as committed as he is to this cause, or
Mm.
as committed as he perceives himself or has put himself out there to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you right there with it, and I think I just post a screenshot of Brandon who said it's idolatry at its finest. It really is, and but I want to theologically kind of put that together because I think this is what, and the world is not going to think this way, right? They don't have the ability to understand spiritual things, but for the believers, I want us to think through this. Is that part of being made in the image of God, right? Is we were made to imitate God. We were made to not just imitate, like, if you think about what are we made to imitate God to do? Well, okay, you could say, we were made to imitate God to be fruitful and multiply the earth. I mean, he obviously created animals, he did these things, he created human beings. But we were also made in the image of God to imitate who we think God is. And we imitate God based on the morality of God, all those things. So you got Ephesians 5:1, be imitators of God. You don't see that anywhere else. There's nowhere else really in the New Testament that tells you to do that, but Ephesians 5:1. We were created to be imitators of God. We were created for two main purposes, to imitate God and then for community, right? This is why man, should not be alone, right? He creates woman. And then there's community. And you see, like at the Tower of Babel, even the Tower of Babel, to me, there are two parts of the Bible that I think are the greatest displays of humanity: the Tower of Babel, and then God's conversation with Satan in Job. When you think about what Satan said to God, Satan said this. He said, "Have you tried my servant Job?" Satan says, "Nah, because you give him all this stuff. But if you take away all these things from him, then he'll curse you." So God says, "Okay, go ahead, but you can't harm him." So he does that. Job doesn't curse God. Then the next conversation, Satan, have you tried my servant Job? Nah, because you protect him physically. You take that away from him, he's going to reject you. So God says, okay, you can hurt him, but don't kill him, right? So we always focus on like what Job did and what God took from Job. We don't focus on what Satan said. Like this is his view of humanity. If we can convince people that if we can take things away from them, if God won't protect them, and then God allows harm to come to them, then they don't want to believe in him. That's his view of humanity. And that's
Yeah,
very
for
true.
sure.
Very true. How many people have you seen walk away from the faith
Yep.
because God didn't answer their prayer, or someone they cared about passed away or whatever, and they just can't do this anymore, right? You see this stuff happen. You see Satan's view of humanity happen. But the Tower of Babel is also another crazy scene about humanity. Here you have everyone wanting to be in community, in unison together, right? They all wanted to be on the same page. They spoke the same language. They were like one voice. And when they were unified together, they didn't need to glorify God because they were confident in their numbers. What do they call it? Strength in numbers, right?
They
So
thought they didn't need to. Yeah.
right. So instead of being fruitful and multiplying the earth, they build a temple up to God until he changes the language. He changes the ability for them to communicate because it's through that communication that the unity would change. You could only go with the people that spoke your language. And so cultures get created in that sense, right? But what you see is this desire, like that desire doesn't go away.
Right.
And you see that, and you know from the scriptures, that desire to be unified will come back in Revelation. But it'll be everyone is marveling at the beast, right? And it says for the four corners of Gog and Magog will rise up against against the Christ, all humanity, right? Apart from the elect. So I'm saying all this to say, I think we really, really need to take a moment and understand human nature is that we will imitate whoever we think God is. We'll imitate that. And and what we think God is has a direct connection to morality. Like morality is really like, because think about this. Even the most richest people in the world, like Mark Zuckerberg, what's the one thing that he still needs? He still has to submit to Congress. He still has to submit to law. Morality is more important than money.
Right.
Whoever controls morality controls the world. Whoever controls the definitions of good and evil. And when people become rich, they just essentially get more credibility to determine what's good and evil. So you go to this concert and we're just trained, particularly in our country, because it's such, but I think it's a human condition. We're trained to give people a moral authority over us if they're godlike to us. And the standard is, because God is the platform, right? God is the platform. You can't get bigger than that. That's why people have what? A God complex, right? Because you can't get bigger than that. You can't get bigger than God. But we give people this sense of authority. Like, it boggles my mind that because you can play basketball very well, that you can affect the way I am a moral person. Because you can rap, okay, you're a great rapper. Why does that, in my mind, give you an authority? Because you're a great actor. Why now does what you think about politics important? Like, that's the culture that we've created in humanity, but in America, is moral authority and importance is given to people who have the bigger platforms, who are rich or whatever it is. And I don't understand why people can't enjoy the concert, but I'm not doing what he tells me to do. What's the insatiable nature of this sense where I need to do whatever he says? Whoa, Drake just said all the girls pull your shirts up and and then a bunch of girls just do it. Or Travis Scott says, hey, rush the stage, rush security. And no one's thinking like, hey man, people are gonna get hurt by this. And the reason why I think this is the deeper issue, because this could happen at any concert.
Yeah.
We're going to key in on Travis Scott because it happened at his concert. It happened at Astrofest. And for the next year or two, people are going to be real careful about something happening at a concert, right? It's going to happen.
Real careful.
They're going to be real careful. But the reality is, and I hope this, I'm going to be honest, I hope that people no longer want to follow this dude and listen to his music. But that's not going to happen wholesale, but I think it'll happen. But if it does, his baby mom, who's about to have a second child with Kylie, she's a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? It's billionaire. So again, to me, bro, I think a lot of this is, man, why are we wired to give people an authority to conduct my morality? I'm not even talking about being a Christian. There are people there that know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Like, like this is wrong. Like, this one girl was describing that all these people were just climbing, like running into the gate, running in it. She said she paid hundreds of dollars to get her legitimately, but she said all these people just jumped the gate and just ran in because security couldn't do nothing, right? And then all these people, when they were like, move to the front, push everybody out of the way, people would just do that. Like, you don't have the ability to think, hey, this is going to hurt someone. Or let me knock people down. When the dude was like, stop the show, he said people were giving him the finger.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
Like, and it's just like, so we can get into the demonic stuff. All that stuff is there. And I think that's going to be developed in times, in episodes to come. But I'm stuck on this idea that why does you're good at something give you a moral authority over me? Like, why is that? Why does that matter? Like, because that's the real influence. Like, I can listen to music I can watch an ungodly movie. We can watch John Wick. I can watch Squid Game, and I'm not once am I like, man, let me go out and shoot somebody, stab somebody, shoot. Even when I was younger, I just wouldn't do that. It wasn't like that. The only movie that had that kind of impact on me was Scarface. When I watched that joint, I had a real impact on me. And I was like, I want to be a G. I want to go out like that. I remember thinking that. That was the only movie I can think of. So when Jay-Z said Scarface the movie did more than Scarface the rapper to me, I resonated with that line 100%. 100%. But I still don't get why there is a sense of, if you're good at something, that you have a moral authority over me. And until we really explore that, and people really, and that's what I hope people get to. Like, hey, this guy is just a dude. Like,
You
okay, I
remember?
like his music. Why do I need to obey him when he says do something unlawful?
Yeah, you remember back in the day when Charles Barkley did that Old Spice commercial, and he said that he's not
I'm not
a
a role
role
model.
model. He's not a role model. I think that's what he was getting at.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was getting at that idea that just because I'm in a position of celebrity and of what seems like power or connection to you, doesn't mean that you just do and say whatever I do and say.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you
Yeah.
don't just, I'm not your role model. I'm not
Right.
that dude, you know. And
I always took that to mean he just didn't want the responsibility. He just didn't.
me too, me
Yeah.
too. But I think when I, you know, when I think about it, I could see him getting at that as well. Like,
Yeah.
because he does function that way. Like, you know, when you any little bit you know about Barkley, like he's not about just listening to whatever somebody says and doing it.
Right. Yeah. He's always been a stubborn dude. Right.
For sure. And he wouldn't be expecting other people to rock that way either.
Right.
So when I think about how people have this power over us or over society, over certain individuals, just because of their celebrity, I really think it boils down to people, it actually selfishness. It's people wanting to be recognized, people wanting position themselves. They want to be Travis Scott, you know, they want to be Miley Cyrus. They want to, you know, they want to be Lady Gaga. They want to be all these people that have, you know, created this persona that sits on top of the world. And, you know, when you hear these people talk, I understand it. If you don't have a concept of the inheritance that's stored up for you in heaven by the Lord, and the fact that he keeps you by his power, if you don't have that concept, if you don't understand that, then what else are you going to cling to? What else are you going to run to?
Right.
You're going to run to wherever you see power on display. And a man singing on stage in front of, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, that's power. Whether you believe it or not, that's influence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can move a crowd like that. That's part of the rush of performing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I'm still stuck on, why does that power influence morality? Because you can still, like, I can, like, you know, because some people get it and some don't. Like prime example, there's a soccer player, Ronaldo something, right? Because I'm not, like, he's a good soccer player. Because I'm not into soccer, like, he doesn't have sway over me. Like, he couldn't just have me do something. Well, I don't think anybody could in that sense and what we're talking about. But it's just fascinating that, wow, like, people can tell me to do something like break the law and I'll do it because this guy is a good rapper or he's an actor. They'll tell me to vote a certain way or to not do this and I won't do it.
Well, I mean, we can't be like, we got to be careful how we think about that too, because if we think about times in history where we've been heavily influenced by other people in any given moment, you know, whether it be, you know, we smoked a blunt, we drank, with the music we're listening to, the party we're at, the beef that just popped off, you know, whatever the case may be, there has been things that have influenced us to function in certain ways, to respond in certain ways. You know, like if you're in a crowd with a bunch of dudes and they're like, yo, let's go, you know, beat dude up because he just did such and such. And you're like, I don't know. But then they throw in there, yo, hit this L, drink this brew, let's go here. All of a sudden, you're in. You're down for the cause because they done told you this whole story about how dude did this and they sold you on it. So
I get that. I get that. That's peer pressure. I get that. But that's different to me only in this sense. I'm with a group of people that I have relationship with, and I want to stay connected to them. I don't know this dude. This dude is a performer, or this
but you
dude is an athlete.
but that's the thing though.
I'm not going to be connected to him. Like these dudes are people I'm around. These are friends of mine. These are people that I think there's value that I get
I
from them.
got you.
There's no, I don't know you. Like once this game is over, you're going that way and I'm going this way. Once the concert's over, I know you're going to wherever, you're going to go do your thing. I'm not going to see you probably ever again. And so
Right.
it's like, so why do I let you tell me how to morally act in this setting? And I don't have any connection to you apart from.
Because in their minds there is a connection. In their minds there is um an attachment to this person. They know him. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, right. They know you through your
that's
music, right?
that's the way it is today, fam. Like we talk about this all the time with social media. Like people act like they know us or they know you. And people in that crowd believe they know Travis Scott, and Travis Scott knows their inner
Right.
pains, their sufferings, what they deal with, because they relate to him and his music. Some of those people probably are closer to him than they are to real people that exist. You know what I'm saying?
I'm
Because
sure
you
some
got,
of them are.
for sure, you got video game world, you got this whole meta thing with Facebook, like that whole virtual reality. People exist in that realm, they
Yeah.
live there. So Travis Scott is nothing but a phone tap away in that realm. You know what I'm saying? Like a little touch, like, oh, there's Travis Scott, I'm here too, we're hanging out together. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's the way it is nowadays, fam.
Yeah. Well, all that stuff I get. I think and I guess I know that we're heading in the direction over the next episodes. So I'm more priming the pump for something that's deeper because I think all that being withstanding, like my sense of right and wrong did not come from Travis Scott or anyone else. All those people had parents, and I'm sure the majority of the people that were there had parents that would say, hey, don't just listen to whatever anyone said. You know what I mean? Like you've taught your kids that. So to me, I agree that how the culture is and how we feel connected and because we're created for community. We're created for connection. And we will, I mean, the Bible story, we will follow wherever the crowd goes, right? I got a book behind me that I haven't read in a long time. Pulitzer Prize winning author. She wrote a book called Join the Club. And the book is about how positive peer pressure made a significant impact in different parts of the world. And like she talks about this one city in Africa where there was this AIDS like awareness push and it caused like a lot of peer pressure and people ended up going to get tested and thinking about all this other stuff. So to me, it's the deeper issue of morality. And why? Because I get belonging, I get all of that, I get gang stuff. I mean, we come from that. We come from. I was telling the church that I was in. I said, I was talking about we're created for community, and I was like, when you see like gang activity, like in Chicago or wherever, Detroit or whatever, in your mind you see it as sinful, but the people who live in these, they see this as community. This is the community of people that they're around, and these are the people that are with them. So
Yeah,
we're created for that. I think it's possible to like an artist, feel connected to him musically, but have a moral code.
for sure.
Because I think me
Sure.
and you do that. I think we love
Yeah.
our artists, and if we went to a concert with our two favorite artists, and they were like, "Yo," or I want every dude to grab the girl that's next to him and do this, me and you would be like, "Man, I ain't doing that."
Hmm.
Now, granted, we have, but I'm not even talking about being a believer. I'm just talking about just having a moral compass.
Right.
It's people who are good athletes or good singers or good actors or good rappers, whatever, they still don't determine the moral compass for us.
It shouldn't.
So the question is, what is it in me or in the people in humanity that has created the context for people to not only I support you musically, but I also am giving allegiance to you morally. Like it's one thing to be like, I bang with your music, that's cool, but it's like you're telling me to punch the dude in the face beside me, put the middle finger up to the sky, all this stuff, and it's like
That's wild.
I ain't doing that, and I'm really exploring why that's a phenomenon, why that happens, why that's a reality among, like, why in America are we 5% of the population, but we have 67% of the serial killers in the world are in America. Now I explore this on the album, so that was a shameless plug for Serial Killers Smiling Pictures. But I'm getting at something that's really bigger than, and it's really interesting. It's fascinating to watch this and think like, wow, if you have money or popularity, people don't just like what you do. They will listen to you. They will obey you. They will obey you and follow your moral commands. And that's why people are like, look, Travis Scott could have been like, hey, everyone, listen, there's too much going on. Do this, do that. Don't do this, don't do that. And people would have listened.
For sure.
Some people are like, man, he didn't lead well. If anything, that was a horrible, if anything, that was just a horrible display of leadership on his part. Terrible.
He's not a leader, fam.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely not a leader. He's not a leader. And those are the worst kind of the worst leaders are the ones that people follow. The worst leaders are the ones people follow. It's fascinating. All right, so there were a couple things for me. There's a lot that could be said, but there's a couple things for me that I thought were positives in all of this, ironically. One of the things that I think is a positive is that people are seeing the demonic nature in this.
That's good, yeah.
I'm watching people who I don't know if they're really Christian or not. And if you watch the way they're even describing it, I'm not sure if they are, but they had at least, like, one dude said he got saved as a result of it, right? Your boy, the video.
Yeah, he was laid out on the floor.
Yeah,
he said he just accepted the fact. He accepted that he was going to die and just was ready to roll.
Yeah, and he knew enough to say, Lord, forgive me for my sins.
He did. He did.
Enough. That was Thief on the Cross moment he thought it was.
No, he articulated really well in that interview, man.
He did, man. I really liked it.
Good job.
I did. He did. You could tell that he might have really become a believer.
Yeah.
But I do think it's really good for people to see the demonic nature of these things. I have to be honest, and you alluded to this earlier when we started. I'm not a Travis Scott fan, so I don't really, but I do hate that it was hip hop, right?
I know.
Because I hate that it was hip hop, and that's just because it's connected to Black culture, Hispanic, Latino culture, and we always get blamed for everything except serial killers, right? So,
but it makes sense because hip hop is at that level.
It's at that level.
I mean, hip hop is the world music.
Yeah, it's at that level. Yeah, it's at that level. So it does, I just hate that it's that, because it's a genre that I still care about. But I am grateful that people are seeing the demonic nature of this and calling it out. And not just some conspiracy theory type stuff, but are really looking at this and saying, this was evil. Like, this was satanic. And I'm like, wow, you just don't hear those words anymore.
Right.
You don't hear that kind of language in our culture anymore. There's almost an aversion to the thought of something being satanic or, evil. Those words just don't even come out of people's mouths anymore, right? So in that sense, I was grateful. I'm grateful to see that people are seeing this, and a lot. And this is everywhere. This is the story of of America right now, right? It's the story. The second thing that I'm grateful for is what we just talked about. That there are some people getting saved because of this. Like, there are people who are like the dude, but I've seen other videos of people being like, man, I think the Lord just spoke to me and was like, man, this isn't for you. Like, he let me see like what this industry is like and all this. And I just realized I need to put my trust in the Lord. I'm seeing those kinds of videos, where people are really like, I need to believe in something deeper because their trauma was deeper than just the physical components of it,
Right.
They're able to see, no, we do not wrestle with flesh and blood. Like, on one level, the application of Ephesians 6 is coming to light. It's like people are realizing like, whoa, this was evil. This was demonic. This was, And they're coming to that conclusion. It's not some pastor trying to weigh in. They're coming to that conclusion on their own. So first, I think the demonic nature that people are saying, I think is a good thing, because the enemy, you ever see, that Homer Simpson gif where he just drips back
Goes
into the
to the
bushes?
bush. Yeah.
That is exactly what Satan has done, bro. He's just kind of drifted back into the bushes. And he's just like he's been reduced to like Loki, like just a mischievous dude with a long tail, a pitchfork, and some horns, And it's like, nah, fam, this dude is a real serious opponent. He's a formidable opponent. The scripture calls him the God of this world. So I'm liking that people see that. I'm liking that people are getting saved. And I think the third thing for me is that I'm glad to see people are asking questions and are really open. Like, people are legitimately affected by this, and it's making them ask questions. And I think because of that, this is a real tender moment for making disciples, sharing the gospel, because people are genuine. People who weren't there, people are just like genuinely concerned for the stories they've heard, the lives that have been lost.
That's good.
I think there is a sense where people are asking real questions. And you know what and this is going to, I hate, this is going to sound, I'm not, I'm just going to say it. I think I'm glad that people aren't blaming God for this. At least I'm sure there people are, of course. I've watched a lot of content on this thing just so I could feel like I know what I'm talking about for our show today. I'm excited that people are not really blaming God. Like, they're blaming satanic, they're blaming the devil, they're blaming Travis Scott, some people Drake, some people whoever was Live Nation, who was in charge of the actual venue concert-wise. They're blaming all of those people. They're not really blaming the Lord on this. They're seeing that it's the opposite of the Lord, that it's demonic activity. I'm encouraged by that, bro.
Yeah.
I think what it does is I don't think the church, and again, I can't prove what I'm about to say because I'm not the Lord. But from the small vantage point that I have, I don't think we know how to seize these kind of world moments and use them evangelistically, and use them as confidence to have conversations with people where we're able to share why we're not rattled by this.
We should be able to.
Even if it was satanic, which I think it was, no question. There's no way, if people saw the article that we saw, there's no way you could see that stuff and not think that. But people are open to talking about it and seeing it for what it is.
It's wild that like, in the midst of all the things that are happening in the media today, all the news that's occurring, still between like this Travis Scott situation, this Kanye West thing, still between even just those two, God and Satan is in conversation. Good and evil are in conversation, and Jesus Christ even his name is being proclaimed in the midst of this. It's also crazy to think that Ye just did that interview on Drink Champs. What was it? It was last week.
Last week.
Right. So it would have been maybe a day or two before this concert took place, right? And on that interview, he said what would be on his gravestone, what would put him to death, was the signing of Travis Scott.
No, he said that about Big Sean.
Oh, was it?
It was Big Sean.
Was it Big Sean?
Yeah, he said it was Big Sean.
I thought it was Travis Scott.
It was Big Sean. He said that Travis Scott copied him, though. He said, I tell Trav, man, you copied me, bro. Because, he did, Kanye did 808s and Heartbreaks.
Right.
He was the first, that was 08, so he was kind of the first one to really, really
so the signing of Big Sean was the issue thing but he did talk about Travis Scott as well.
He did, yeah, but he did. No, he did. But the reason why he said that about Big Sean was because, but I should have said that. I should let you go with it because you was on point. You was clicking right there. You was
it's cool. It kind of killed it for me anyway, so it's all right. It's all right.
We just got to be accurate as we can.
Either way, the Lord is being talked about, and evil wickedness, all of these things are coming to the forefront, and they're undeniable. I mean,
100%.
honestly, ironically, they're undeniable because of the imagery that's used by that side, by the world.
I was just getting ready to say that.
They use the imagery
Mm-hmm.
that we can click and connect right away to evil, to horror, to dark side. Well, what do you expect? Like, that's the irony behind it. You know what I'm saying?
But again, if as long as the enemy of God is portrayed, then the need for God is displayed.
Right.
And that's what I love. Like, so this is what I'm saying. Like, you hear people talking about evil and Satan and demons and all this stuff, and they said, man, we've never seen nothing like this. And these are people who've been to the 2 previous Astrofests or have been to other concerts and said they've never seen anything like this before.
Right.
So what you get is people are getting these categories that are basically a submission to Ephesians 6. We do not wrestle with flesh and blood, but against the principalities, rulers of this age, and all that, right? Paul calls it this present darkness, post-resurrection. So that is fascinating to me. I think this understanding of this concern for the morality that they saw, the immorality at Travis Scott, it gets you thinking about the opposite of that. Because you hear people saying like, hey, if you could do it differently, what would you do? And most of it is, I would serve, I would help, I would try to treat other people the way I want to be treated and go in and try to save lives. It really does point. It can point people to Christ. I would just urge us as believers when we have. So I just take Galatians 6:10 that Paul said, look, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, especially those in the household of faith.
Amen.
And I think moments like this give us the ability to do that. And but we just have to seize the moment and and try to benefit from the tragedy sovereignly, not doing videos just so we can get clicks. That's why we haven't once until right now said, listen, we need you to subscribe to the channel and click the button. If you are listening on the audio podcast, there will be a link in the description that you can click to subscribe to the channel. Even if you listen just on just podcasts, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You go on YouTube. Go ahead, man.
Word up. Let's build it up. Build it up.
We're trying to build it up. We got a lot of stuff that we want to talk about and get there. So we do need you to subscribe, like the channel, leave a comment for the algorithm.
Share the YouTube link. Specifically.
Yeah, do all of that for the algorithm.
I'll go with them.
So that's what happened. That's what people felt like at the concert. They couldn't stop smiling like this. What's happening to me? I can't. No, it's just a travesty. And I think lastly, the last thing I'll say that I was encouraged by is I think people are already learning from this. That people are actually, what these do, it makes you care about people.
Right.
Like Tiana Taylor had a concert. Something happened. She stopped the concert because it's like, no, people are aware of this stuff. Now they might do it out of fear. Like, I don't want to get sued. Right.
But at least they're doing it.
But they're doing it. There's a care for other people that I think is woefully gone because, like we said on the algorithm episode a couple of weeks ago, we are being shaped we are being reimagined, reimaged in the form of an algorithm that doesn't have emotion, love. And so when people show up to this event, they're so used to dealing with people through social media. And so much of your interactions is just instinct. It's not conviction. It's not based on love or philosophy. It's based on just like my reaction, my pattern of doing things.
I mean, fam, if reality was questioned by the philosophers in ancient times, like saying things like, I think, therefore I am, right? How much more will reality be questioned today with the existence of the virtual realm, this cyberspace? Reality today, there's more reason to question it from that perspective than any other time in history.
Well,
I mean, at one point in the future, the people are going to look back at our video games and not be able to determine what a real life basketball game was versus what 2K was.
Right. Yeah.
It's not going to be too long before you won't be able to tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So reality is what anymore?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's some people out there who probably think that these 8, 9 people that died, that's not even reality.
Yeah.
You know, what happened at this concert isn't even really reality.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild to think that
No,
way.
it is. No, I think we do. Or
People gotten to that point of justification. I mean,
yeah.
they want to justify so much so that they'll question reality itself.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's definitely gonna be people who do that, bro. I think you're dead on. I think what people are gonna mostly do is move in the framework in the way of my conviction, and my response to things is more shaped by my social media interactions than my own conviction that I've learned from like my family or something.
Right.
That's what we
Yeah.
see happening, is a lot of when you get together with all these people, it's like being in a big Facebook group,
Hmm.
and people are just interacting like an algorithm rather than like a human being.
Yeah.
And that's some of the like, wow, this is pretty crazy when you think about, like, why would you not, like people mad, what are you angry for? Like, why? Because it's all it's trained response. It's Pavlov's dogs, right?
Right.
Social media mafia. There's just this own mafia, and I think that's part of what's happening is people don't know how to relate to each other, because you primarily relate to people based on social media, and you can just, and it doesn't require you to be humble, doesn't require you to be patient or ask questions for clarification. I mean, you see it on my posts all the time. Someone will just accuse me of something, like, bro, you didn't even ask like what I meant by this.
Right.
You just accuse me, and then I push back, and then you're telling me, but you're a pastor. It's like, I'm allowed to say I disagree with you, bro. Like, what are you talking about here?
Facts.
So there's a lot here, man. I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But I think I know where things are. Well, I think I have some thoughts about where we're really at, the levels that we're really at, and how these things may affect us. And so I'm looking forward to laying some of this stuff out and having a crazy thoughts on this. So again, we appreciate everybody checking us out. This is Cross Examine. If you're on
Yeah.
YouTube, man, like and subscribe to the channel. If you're on Facebook watching, man, go over to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the Chanel. It's not going to hurt you. Subscribe to the Chanel. And if you're listening to the podcast, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I checked our numbers for episode 1. They were right up there where they normally are. So I was encouraged to hear that people are still listening, downloading, getting to us. But listen, if you are that, we want to build up what we're doing. We got a lot of stuff. Also, listen, we're about to get into some other things that are going to be beneficial, particularly for those who are Patreon supporters. So if you want to support us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/cross-examine. We're about to start doing some things for our Patreon supporters that are nice. Unless they don't like them, then it's like, all right, man, y'all just fickle. I ain't going to keep, jumping through hoops for you. Now I'm just playing. We bang with our Patreon posse. My posse's on Patreon.
Word up.
Y'all know about that. All right, y'all. Appreciate you listening to us again. Subscribe to the channel.
Do it.
Like, leave a comment.
Hit that button down below. Actually, on that side over there. On that side. On that side.
Or else, my G. I'm Kurt Kennedy. He's Strizzy Strack the Wolverine. We appreciate y'all, and we're out of here, y'all. Grace and peace.
Bye.